Hey there, it's November of 2022, and because of the most recent upheaval, if you will, in some crypto areas, I felt it was important to reconnect with my good friend Piper Moretti and kind of chat with her about where she sees things going and what's going on and all the things. I'm a big fan of diffusing misinformation and or diffusing fear, if you will. And I'm thrilled that we had this great conversation because, frankly, her insight and input was incredibly helpful, I think, for anyone who has any desire to get into the crypto world. So I hope you enjoy it. And please know at the end of the video, there will be a little notation as to how you reach out to her. She's also going to share a little bit of her content in her courses because she's written some crypto courses to help us all be better in the crypto area. But I hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Well, Piper, it is so unbelievably exciting to be with you again. I absolutely adore you. I'm thrilled that we got to meet each other. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that we were supposed to meet each other, however many years ago that was. But as you know, because I know you know, there's been some, I'm going to use the correct word. There's been some poop in the crypto world. So I want
Uh-huh.
us to talk about some of that. I want us to talk about where things are. You and I have spoken in the past about your tendency to be very conservative. Obviously, we had this massive meltdown, I want to call volcano, if you will, of
Mm,
FTX.
mhm.
There are changes. Can you speak to that a little bit for our viewers?
Okay, well, where do you want me to start? FTX, or do you want me to rewind before that?
No, let's just start with the big elephant in the room and take it from there.
Okay, well, FTX, it's just it. Look, I'm going to start off by saying, with these bear markets that we have, they're cyclical, right? About every 4 years, there's a crypto bear market.
Mm,
Um, and what that does, it exposes the bad players. All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And it happened back in 2018 with the ICOs and the pump and dumps and all that when the SEC came in and clamped down on everybody. And it's happening now. And people basically, like, the long and the short of it is, these companies get way too big for their britches, and they overpromise and they underdeliver, and that's kind of like the high level of it. And FTX is no exception. This guy, he there were he got a lot of investors,
Mm,
and I mean, like high profile investors that lost a ton of money. But there was just misappropriation of funds. There was just a lot. I think it's all going to come out in the wash when this goes to court, hopefully. But there are some shell companies. There were some shady stuff going on, and CoinDesk is the one that it was. They came out with an article at the beginning of this month, November, saying, "Hey, we just found out about this one company that is a subsidiary of FTX that is only holding FTX coin, basically. It wasn't backed up in fiat or anything like that. It was just kind of like there. So that kind of raised a red flag, and that's the domino that just leveled
began to go
everything."
down. So speak to me a little bit, if you would. I know you just shared a lot, and I'm going to just walking down this like we've done the last few times. We're just having a chat. This is a
Sure.
kind of the same conversation I would ask you if you and I were having a glass of wine together. So you spent some time talking about what you discovered, and of course, my brain immediately, having been in real estate 36 years, my brain immediately went to some of the issues that created our big recession. I don't call it great because it wasn't great. And talking about things of that kind. So what I'm
Yeah.
hearing you say is that, and I want to be cautious here because I don't want anybody to get all angry with us, but at the same time, at some level, because I know you're a believer in Bitcoin or whatever
Hmm.
the electronic currencies are, pick a name for them. I'm not even speaking that correctly, but what did you read? Where did you see? Where did you find the data that you analyzed in terms of what happened with FTX?
Oh, well, I will say Investopedia is a really great resource. And they're pretty tried and true, but there are so many publications, online publications that have just been all over this.
Hmm.
Um, Another resource that I really like is Web3 Daily, and I recommend that for anybody who really isn't in the space. They put things in plain English and they explain everything to
Yeah.
you as if you don't know, which is great. But yeah, I mean, it's this has just been a leading story for the last month, and there is a timeline of like, okay, the CoinDesk article was the impetus. People started to get a little scared. Oh, wait a minute, maybe I should withdraw my money,
Uh,
and there was no money to be. He just overextended, and
mhm.
so and that's when another domino fell. He the CEO filed for bankruptcy, and he tried to get another loan. He tried to pull some more equity funding to get. It didn't happen. The assets were frozen, and then it just all hell broke loose.
So
So
what you're saying to me, and what I love so much, because my goal here is to make sure that the individual consumer that may have interest or has invested is getting accurate data, not just looking at. We all know, I'm old, so I remember Walter Cronkite. Walter Cronkite never had an opinion about the news; he just provided the news, and
I
so
loved Walter.
he
I
was the
love
best.
those days.
I
Yes.
want to go back to Walter Cronkite, but what we do know that media spins things, and
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that's important to me based on this conversation or this component of our conversation is that where should that consumer go who has
Mm,
an interest in understanding bottom line fact-based data?
yeah.
And I want you to take that and go to the next place of I'm pretty sure you're going to tell me that this whole thing didn't affect you at all in terms of your own investments in cryptocurrency, nothing at all. Because
No.
I want us to go to where do they find the right data that is non-inflammatory, fact-based,
Right.
and then talk about your own personal crypto portfolio and why you chose going in those directions. If
Oh boy. Well, that's a long story in and of itself. But my personal trusted news sources are what I've said before, like Investopedia. It's more of like a that's more of like an encyclopedia of
right,
you
right,
know
right, right.
just all things investments. Web3 Daily is great. Cointelegraph is one of the top publications out there. I believe that they are very factual in their reporting. I would tend to shy away. It's just like any other news. I would shy away from the slanted news. I mean, CNBC has their own crypto corner, but I mean, it's still a little slanted. Fox News obviously is slanted. Everybody's got their own opinions. I would stay away from the opinions and go to the trusted crypto
That's what I want to,
sources.
that's what I want to
Yeah,
have. So one of
yeah,
the things, if I may interrupt you, Piper, what I want to do at the end of our time together, maybe what you can do is send me a list of the locations that you personally
yeah.
trust. And then I can add that to the end of our video so
That'd
that
be great.
if anybody wants to really invest, they can go to the right data sources. So,
Yes.
I love that. So let's speak now to you aren't harmed. So talk to me about your conservatism.
Oh boy. Well, I learned the hard way, honestly. I saw it. Even one point, in my career, I saw FTX as pretty legit. I mean, they all of a sudden they were just kind of everywhere. That kind of raised a red flag a little bit. I'm watching a baseball game and the umpire had FTX on I was like, wow, that happened fast. You
What?
know, that's a pretty
What?
good product placement.
Are you
Yeah,
kidding me?
you know, and the guy bought a stadium in Miami. You know, I mean, he was using these
Wow.
funds
Wait,
to,
wait. You're
yeah,
telling me that the guy that owned FTX is now bankrupt, bought a stadium in Florida.
pretty much, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So it's FTX Stadium, and I don't know what they're going to name it now, but it's not going to be that for much longer. But yeah, so you know, I played around with the app a little bit. It used to be an app that, you know, I could keep track of all of my investment, you know, because you've got with crypto, you can get a coin, you know, maybe one coin isn't on Coinbase, but it's on Uphold or something, or you know, you've got maybe some other investments, you know, in another exchange or whatever, and you can put them all together and at least like get your portfolio all in one place. That's what I was using it for. I wasn't investing in anything, you know, and then I don't know, the app just became kind of a pain, you know. So I just, you know, so but I never put my money in because I just, you know, I don't like to spread my money around too far, you know, then that's
No,
just
you're
me.
conservative. You're a conservative person.
Yeah. Yeah, and I used to not be that way. I mean, when I was first introduced to crypto back in, you know, 2016, 2017, I mean, I had God upwards of 40 different coins, you know, on Binance. You know, I had Gemini, I had, you know, all these different platforms that I used, and then you know, I was hacked, you know, and I lost all of it, you know, and part of it was user error and being a novice at it, and you know, not having a lot of, you know, secure passwords, and also keeping it on an exchange. You know, it's like just things that you just don't really know when you're starting out. But so now, you know, I've built up my portfolio a little bit better. I have that. I don't know my login. Like if I don't know my username and password, then nobody else should either. I've got it stored away in vaults. You know, so that's how I lock it down. But I mean, I'm down to probably, I don't know, I'd say not even a dozen coins, you know, we'll just say a dozen coins, you know, and I keep them all on a cold storage, you know, and that's just, I do my research now. I don't just, you know, talk to a crypto bro, you know, that's like, oh, it's gotta be this coin, you know, and then you never hear from it again. But yeah, I mean, I do the homework. I look at utility. I look at, you know, what's, you know, maybe what's coming down the pike. Yeah, so that's and it's just easier that way on me and
But
myself. Yeah.
also, everything you just described is like this is how anybody should invest. If you're going to invest in anything, don't just throw money at it. Take the time to take the look and make sure that it's safe and secure. And yeah, that's the thing that always is frightening when some kind of thing gets the wave and the wave is going and you think you know how to surf and you don't.
Exactly.
Then you
Yeah.
crash and burn in the ocean, and that's not a pretty thing. So good, 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 good. And I'm going to come around to how
Yeah.
you contribute to that in just a moment. What do you think about where do you think the whole crypto world's going to go?
Well, again, the bad players are getting weeded out. There's always going to be bad players, all
Right.
right, and they're getting weeded out again. This time, you know, in the finance world,
Yes.
you know, FTX. I mean, before this, it was lenders. It was, you know,
Oh
Voyager.
yes. Oh please, don't even start me.
Yeah, I mean, and again, they were just over promising, just thinking, you know, hey, we're never gonna, we're just gonna ride this wave, not even thinking that we're just gonna
Everything's always going to be okay, Dorothy. It's going to
hitting
be
a, you know, we're
perfect.
never gonna be in a bear market again. It's just like crazy to me to think that. So yeah, so a lot of these guys are now out of business. So you know, once the, you know, the the trust, it is definitely, I wouldn't say completely gone. You know, I mean, FTX did not do us any favors whatsoever, but there will be an upswing. And I don't know. I mean, yes, there should be a call for some kind of regulation or some kind of I don't know. I mean, look, the feds don't even know what the heck they're doing with this.
Right.
You know, they're way behind the eight ball. They've got to even many of them, most of them aren't educated on any of this, really. You got a representative from Wyoming and a couple from Ohio that really get blockchain and crypto that are kind of spearheading all this, but by and large, the feds don't really know what to do with it. But if there's something in place, like, say like the savings and loan scandal way
Yes,
back in,
yes, yes.
very similar to that. If we had some kind of protection,
Right.
that might be a little bit better than what we've got today, which is nothing.
But you do think that I agree with you, by the way. If your position is that it's not going away, I agree with you. I have, as you know, I'm a big researcher, specifically in international real estate. And what I have seen is, and I don't remember where it was, and I don't remember how long ago I saw this, but I do remember that um, this particular group of people in this particular location did not have stable banking institutions. And the only way they functioned was using some type of cryptocurrency.
El
Uh,
Salvador, probably.
could be El Salvador.
Yeah.
It was, and I thought it was like, this is magical. So instead of having people, because there's a country, I'm not going to mention any names, but there's a country right now that the country's paper currency is not worth wallpaper.
Right.
It's
Right.
literally just trash because it's worthless. And so I do believe that the whole crypto thing has a place in the world to potentially help all of these countries that may
Mm-hmm.
be struggling. And I think you're on the forefront of that. I'm just a follower. So, but I do want to take you to the next place, and that's an important thing because although I have a dear friend named Saul Klein, I adore him. He understands it intimately. I think the thing that there is confusion is what the heck does blockchain mean?
Okay.
And what does that represent? And where does
All
that,
right.
what is that? So talk about, what does that mean?
All right. Well, blockchain is the underlying technology for cryptocurrency. All
Okay.
right. So it's a distributed ledger. It is immutable. It's this. It was created. I mean, well, it's been around for a while, but it really was deployed with Bitcoin, because it's the Bitcoin blockchain. It's the Ethereum blockchain, and they're both different blockchains, but it's just know that it's the underlying technology. Now you can have a blockchain without a token, and basically it's a sexy way of record keeping.
That's a huge issue.
Yeah.
So that just took the whole big blockchain and said it's record keeping.
Yep. That's all it is.
But is the record keeping more what word would I use? Because back in the day I used to actually use a pencil. I still like pencils. A
It's
pencil and a
decentralized.
columnar pad. So tell me how that translates.
All right. Well, it's decentralized, and like I said, it's immutable. So once the information has been input, onto a block, you can't change it. It's time stamped. The only way that you can possibly change that information is to update it in another block, right? So it's in pen up there, say in the cloud or on this chain, right? The cool thing about it is, and I'm going to use an example, is that like I said, it's decentralized.
Right.
And so it's not dependent on any one server. So if that server goes down, like if one server goes down, you've got copies on other servers.
So does that create some, forgive me in advance, does that create some insulation and protection?
Yes, absolutely. So the really good example is Hurricane Katrina. The land records completely demolished in New Orleans, and people spent 10, 12 years trying to get their own property back. There was no record of it.
Wow.
So something like that, if that information, land records are really the lowest hanging fruit here. If those were just on blockchain, it would be just a huge service to, yeah.
So foundationally, blockchain could be a cure for a lot of stuff of that kind.
Yeah.
Wow.
For sure. Yeah.
Wow. So that takes me to the next place with you, my sweet friend. I know you're an educator, you know I'm an educator, and I know because you're passionate about this that you've created an educational program. So can you talk a little bit about what are you doing? What does it look like? What are you talking about? Is it simple enough for someone who is clueless to understand? Talk a little bit about your education program, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's even expanding from, what I have now. But the one that I've got, actually, I've got two. I've got one that's a crash course because I would get calls from agents who were frantic. Oh my God, I have this buyer and I don't know what to do. He wants to buy in Bitcoin. What do I do? So I there were so many calls that were coming in with I just didn't have a chance to sit down with each one of them and explain what. So I created a crash course, and these are the steps, down and dirty. This is what you got to do. And it gives a little bit of a history of like, what crypto even is, what blockchain even is, just so you have like a working understanding. The second one that I've got is a more in depth. It goes through the history of blockchain, the different kinds of blockchains.
Wow, that's so important.
Yeah, yeah, and then like the use cases of blockchain in real estate in particular. Like I just said, the land records, all that. So and platforms that are utilizing it successfully. And then it goes into crypto. What is crypto? So the basics, the history, plus how to do a crypto transaction from end to end, how you would market yourself as a crypto agent. It just goes really, really in depth. So
I love that. I love that. And I want to make sure I support that because
thank you.
I agree with you that I don't think this is going anywhere. And one of the places that came to my mind because of my international real estate stuff is one of the things that is often challenging in other countries is proving title ownership.
Mm-hmm.
That could be healed by blockchain, couldn't it?
It sure could.
Wow.
It really, yeah, it is the answer. And at least right now, until something, I mean, it may not be blockchain in 10 years, it might be something even bigger and better, but
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well,
It
yeah,
solves a lot of issues.
my dear friend Saul, as I mentioned to you, is such a believer and really does believe that blockchain is going to become something more massive than anyone realizes. The biggest issue we have is getting people over the fear factor, like what the heck is this and
Yeah.
what should I trust? So, I just adore you, and I love, I will admit to you, I smile a little tiny, I laugh a tiny, tiny, because we went from our first conversation where you're saying, oh crap, this guy wants to buy a house with Bitcoin. How the hell am I going to do this? Sorry, I'm going to say how the hell in this video. And oh, by the way, the guy that was a listing agent didn't believe any of it. He thought it was like pretend monopoly money. And
Uh-huh.
oh, by the way, then this same buyer went and bought a high-end sports car, and that solved the problem. That was our first conversation. And
Yes.
now where you are today, Piper, is this person who has this unbelievable knowledge and experience. And I love your presentation style. It's very calming.
Oh, thank
This happened.
you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Well, it is because this happened to me. This is how I learned. It completely sucked. However, I learned, and this is what I'm doing now. And this is why I want to teach others how to do it. So at the end of our video together, I'm going to make sure that anybody that watches our video is able to reach out to you, get
Yep.
information on how to get involved in your education programs. A question I have after the education piece, do you offer any additional coaching later on?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I do one-on-one coaching. It's all up there. Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how far you want to go.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. This is not something like, how do I put gas in my car or use an ATM? It's
Right.
this is something far larger than what we have
Yeah.
been dealing with in our careers. So, Piper, any additional comments you want to say? I'm going to guess I know one of them, but go ahead.
Oh my God. I don't what ooh, I don't know what to say, honestly, Jenny.
Here's what I would
What?
say.
Yeah.
Here's what I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
that when somebody is watching the two of us speaking to each other, my primary takeaway is don't be afraid. Just walk out on the,
Yeah.
make sure if you think the lake is frozen, don't just go running out there. Take the time to learn whether or not it's frozen enough.
Education
Yeah.
is so key. I mean, you're an educator, but it's especially when it comes to crypto. It's just because you bought some Ethereum does not make you an expert.
No,
It is.
no, no. And if anything, I would add is please remember what happened, what created the not so great recession, who the bad guys that did stuff, and I'm not going to go there, but the bad guys who did stuff. And there were multiple levels of bad guys in multiple locations and multiple styles and all of that stuff that created something was profoundly difficult for our country and the entire world, by the way. Because
Mm,
as you know, because I've spoken about this, Piper, what happens here is a ripple in the pond. What happens in the US is going to ripple around the entire world. And what happens in another part of the world is going to ripple back to us. And we have to remember that. So we have to learn from the mistakes and pay attention and not do rash judgments. And so I love where you've come compared to where we first met and even our first conversation. And I know you are a tremendous asset to anyone who has interest in learning how to do this the right way. So I'm grateful to you and I'm grateful
aw,
for our friendship, Piper.
me too. Thank you so much for having me again. It's
Yeah,
always a
we have to do this
pleasure.
again. What we have to figure out the
Absolutely.
next topic. We have to do something else.
Oh
Hopefully
yeah.
it's not going to involve somebody that does bad stuff.
Yeah. It's gonna be a little bit, I don't know. Who knows? But yes.
Hopefully it's going to be a good thing. So Piper, you're the best. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, just reach out to me if you have any questions whatsoever. I'm here,
Yeah, that's what I love about you. All right, my friend. So grateful to talk to you again.
Thank you, Jenny.
So educational because quite frankly, even I didn't fully understand blockchain, but and I know that I have a resource. So I know that anybody that's watching also has a resource in you. I thank you for all you're doing, and I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to talk to you again the next time.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. Well, I sure hope that was informational and helpful to you. Please note that Piper's information is available to you. Reach out to her. She's very generous with her time. She genuinely wants, oh, there's Pepper, not Piper, Pepper. She genuinely wants to be able to help people understand that this situation is not going away. Blockchain isn't going away. Blockchain can actually be incredibly helpful on a global scale. But she's knowledgeable and she's generous with her time. Reach out to her. And if you really have interest in getting involved in this, please choose to get involved in her education piece because that's where you're going to learn. I always struggle with misinformation. It's just not something I enjoy. And as I said in my video with her, I remember the days of Walter Cronkite, or back in the days when news guys just read the news. They didn't have their opinions and they didn't inflame things. And that's where I think we are right now in 2022. So I'm hopeful this helps. Please reach out to her. Piper's available. Make sure you subscribe. Join me again because I've got more coming. I look forward to seeing you again very soon.